Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday morning message at Open Door Bible Church in West Ossipee, New Hampshire. Today we'll be in Proverbs 27. I'm going to take you back one verse to get you caught up. Remember back in chapter 25, verse 1 we read, "These also are Proverbs of Solomon, which the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah, copied." Solomon wrote thousands of Proverbs. Many of them were collected together. These that the men of Hezekiah found, they found 270 years after Solomon. So all of chapter 27 is in that collection of things that the men of King Hezekiah found. So we are in 27, verse 1. "Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring forth." Ain't that the truth? You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and neither do I. And by the way, especially the weatherman doesn't know what's going to happen tomorrow. It is human nature to be overly confident in what our future holds. It's easy to boast about the stuff we're going to do, especially in this modern age of continual progress. But James had something to say about that. In the book of James, in chapter 4, we read these words, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a city, spend a year there, buy and sell, and make profit. Whereas you do not know what will happen tomorrow. For what is your life? It is even a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we shall live and do this or do that." Let's not go boasting in our own confidence. Let's boast in the Lord. God is the one who is in control. I get reminded of that on a regular basis. It is all about what God wants. Verse 2. "Let another man praise you, and not your own mouth, a stranger, and not your own lips." We should stay away from self-promotion in its many forms. Modern technology gives us many more methods and opportunities to praise ourselves, but we should avoid such self-praise. By the way, I have never seen anything do a worse job of inflating people's egos than Facebook. I mean, think about the arrogance of taking a selfie of yourself and putting it up and writing a story with it, thinking people really care. We have an inflated opinion of ourselves, and technology has helped to do that. It says, "a stranger and not our own lips." Honor means much more when it comes from an outside source. We should not be praising ourselves. We should not be tooting our own horn, is the way we would probably say it today. Verse 3, "A stone is heavy, and sand is weighty, but a fool's wrath is heavier than both of them." Solomon appealed to the self-evident truths. It is the nature of stone to be heavy. It is the nature of sand to be weighty. He says, but a fool's wrath is heavier than both of them. When a fool, and we define a fool as someone who rejects God's wisdom. When that person expresses their anger and wrath, it is a weighty, dangerous thing. The wrath of any person may have great consequences, but how much more the wrath of a fool? All right, since we're talking about wrath, verse 4. "Wrath is cruel, and anger a torrent, but who is able to stand before jealousy?" So it says, wrath is cruel, anger is a torrent. In all its manifestations, anger is a dangerous and difficult to control emotion. It is just emotion run wild. It says it's like a torrent. But even worse than that, who is able to stand before jealousy? Solomon pointed out that there is a power and destructive capability in jealousy that can go far beyond wrath and anger. It can make a bigger torrent of evil. It was this kind of jealousy that motivated the religious leaders to arrange the death of Jesus. They were jealous. He was taking away all their glory. He was doing a better job than they were. Right, verse 5. Open rebuke is better than love carefully concealed. Now, I did a definition of rebuke, because that's not a word we use a lot. So my definition, again from Webster's 1913 dictionary, to check, silence, or put down with reproof, to restrain by expression of disapproval, to reprimand sharply, to reprove, to admonish. Right? So it says open rebuke is better. Many are hesitant to rebuke others, especially others in God's family. But there is a time and a place where rebuking is not only good, it is better than the alternative. Now, rebuke should be kindly. It should be considerate. It should be administered after much prayer. But when done properly, it cements friendships rather than weakens them. The genuine, open-hearted friend will truly tell you what your faults are, but he'll conceal them from everyone else. He won't talk you down in public. He'll come and talk to you privately. It says, then love fully concealed. Love does little good where it is concealed. The honest love and open rebuke can be much better than carefully concealed love. He's just doing a comparison. Verse 6, faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. Again, much like the last verse, a mark of a true friend is that they will be willing to wound us with a loving correction. The correction may not feel good, just like a genuine wound, but it will be an expression of the love and faithfulness of a true friend. If you have a true friend like that, you are indeed fortunate. Yeah. Now, wounds are a metaphor for the painful and plain words that must be spoken in a true friendship in order to heal one another. It's no fun to do. It's no fun for the person doing it. It's no fun for the person receiving it. But it's necessary before things get worse. It says the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. This cautions us that not all kisses are the greetings of friends. They may come from an enemy and be deceitful in nature. Folks, consider the source when folks start saying nice stuff to you. Verse 7, a satisfied soul loathes the honeycomb, but to a hungry soul, every bitter thing is sweet. Now, you got to kind of think about this one. A satisfied soul loathes, hates the honeycomb. Now remember, in Bible times, there were no candy stores. There were no candy bars. There wasn't much there that was sweet. And honeycomb was about the sweetest thing you could get. So, it talks about a satisfied soul loathing or hating honeycomb. When our life is satisfied, now, this could be either materially or spiritually, then we find it easy to hate and to reject things that would otherwise be greatly desired, such as the honeycomb. Spiritually, this proverb should be understood in a positive sense. The best way of combating worldliness is by satisfying the heart with something better. The full soul hates the honeycomb. If we fill our heart with God and His truth, the things of this world will lose their charm. They will lose their appeal. We won't be so easily led astray. Now, the other half of this saying, to a hungry soul, every bitter thing is sweet. When our life is truly hungry, a person will eat almost anything to stay alive. This is true in the spiritual world. We see those who are deprived of food willing to do anything, including eating out of the garbage. It is also seen in the spiritual world, when those who are awakened as truly hungry souls are ravenous for spiritual food. That's when you got to be careful, because they'll eat anything, and you want to make sure you've pointed them towards the truth, because those kind of people will very quickly take in error. All right, verse 8. Like a bird that wanders from its nest is the man who wanders from his place. Folks, that says we all got a place. We all belong someplace. With just a few words, Solomon painted a heart-touching picture of a bird away from its place of safety and security. It belongs in the nest and nowhere else. Now, I'm going to give you a quote. I didn't say this. Don't get mad at me. I picked somebody else to say it. So this is a quote from Charles Spurgeon, famous English preacher. He said, "Too many in our London churches are sort of like a flying camp, always flying from one place to another. They are a set of gypsy Christians who have no settled abode and no local habitation or allegiance." Let me paraphrase that into modern English. Don't church hop. Be in the place God put you. If a man wanders from a place, we have a place appointed by God. Please, I hope you're here because God told you to be here, not because you find me fun to listen to. That will wear off very quickly. You ought to be in a church because that's where God told you to be. And then once you're in a church where God has told you to be, look for the good things that are there. Don't be looking to complain and gripe all the time. Find good stuff. We need to take care and perceive our place, not the one that culture or community may assign to us, but the place truly assigned to us by God. Now, it is my observation as a guy who's gone to church for a lot of years that God cares about where you go to church. God has a church that you belong in. Find it and make it work. Do whatever you got to do to make it work. Verse 9. Ointment and perfume delight the heart, and the sweetness of a man's friend gives delight by hearty counsel. So again, Solomon is stating a self-evident truth. It is the nature of ointment or perfume to delight the heart through its pleasant smell. Now, by the way, in Solomon's day, you couldn't go to the store and buy deodorant. So truly, many of the folks in those days stinketh. So they covered it up. They didn't know how to make it go away, so they cover it up with perfumes and ointments to make them smell socially acceptable. How do you like that? All right. It says, the sweetness of a man's friend gives delight by hearty counsel. Strong, hearty counsel from a friend is sweet and can bring delight, just as it is the nature of ointment and perfume to delight the heart. Now, don't just read this. I want you to think about this. This proverb should make us ask two questions. Number one, is there someone in my life who can give me hearty counsel? Is there a Christian friend that you can go to and seek advice from? And then you be willing to accept that advice. This is not going from person to person till you find somebody who agrees with you. This is going to somebody who you believe their wisdom will be based on the Word of God and listening to what they tell you. That's question number one. Question number two, is there someone I should be offering counsel to? Now, that means you got to invest yourself. That means you got to put yourself out there. That means you might be misunderstood. You might be rejected. You might be told to go away. but take the risk and try to reach out to somebody. All right, verse 10. Do not forsake your own friend or your father's friend, nor go to your brother's house in the day of calamity. Better is a neighbor nearby than a brother far away. All right, let's unpack this one. Don't forsake your own friend or your father's friend. We should tightly hold on to the bonds of friendship with those that we have known over the years, with those who have known our parents over the years. Don't let those things drift away from you. A well and long trusted friend is invaluable. Him that has been a friend to the family should never be forgotten or neglected. All right? So often we just lose touch with that other generation, those folks who are friends with our parents. We ought not to do that. We ought to cultivate those friendships. Then it says, no, go to your brother's house in the day of calamity. That's not talking about your Christian brother. That's talking about your physical brother. Now, we should not assume that our birth brother is the best one to help in the day of calamity, especially if that brother lives on the other coast. Better a lesser resource that is nearby than a better resource that is far away. Why? Because you're more likely to use the nearby resource. Don't be afraid to go and ask people for help. Don't be afraid to go and ask for advice. This is especially hard for men to do. Men tend to be stubborn. We tend to think we're self-sufficient. We tend to think we've pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps so we don't need anybody else. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Knock it off, guys. Let's start thinking properly. We need people's help. All right. Verse 11. My son. This is Solomon talking to his kid. My son, be wise and make my heart glad, that I may answer him who reproaches me. Solomon gave a simple encouragement to his son to be wise. This wasn't a lecture. This wasn't a chewing out. This was just a piece of advice. Son, be wise. Why? That I may answer him who reproaches me. A foolish son is a cause of insult and reproach to the parents. In some way, the son who rejects wisdom makes his parents look bad. That's the truth. All right, verse 12. A prudent man foresees evil and hides himself. The simple pass on and are punished. All right, wisdom will lead a man or woman to anticipate danger and to take creative action to avoid danger, such as to hide from an oncoming evil. Now, we were given the same admonition back in verse 3. Here it is repeated to reinforce the exhortation by representing the great advantage of wisdom. It's okay to run away. It's okay to hide. It's okay to move yourself from where the temptation is. Remember what Joseph did when Potiphar's wife tempted him? He took off running. He didn't stay and negotiate. He got out of there. Sometimes we just need to have enough wisdom to get out of there. All right. It says the simple pass on and are punished. Those who are naive and untrained in wisdom are blind to the potential danger around them. Why do we read Proverbs every day? To recognize danger that's around us. They will eventually bear the bad consequences of their blindness and be punished. All right, verse 13 is one of those financial pieces of advice. Take the garment of him who is surety for a stranger, and hold it in pledge when he is surety for a seductress. All right, so take the garment of him who is surety for a stranger. If someone is a bad credit risk, how do I know they're a bad credit risk? They're foolish enough to put themselves up and co-sign loans for a stranger. That we should hold a deposit as a security against anything they owe us. It talks about taking a garment, taking a pledge. When he is surety for a seductress, if a man is foolish enough to be surety for a seductress, then we should be especially careful in regards to loaning them money. They are a bad credit risk. How do I know that? Because they make bad choices. If they make bad choices with their money, you know what kind of choices they're going to make with your money? Bad choices. Don't do it. All right. Verse 14 is practical wisdom. He who blesses his friend with a loud voice, rising early in the morning, it will be counted a curse to him. For me to drive to Pastor Terry's house at 4:30 and stand outside his bedroom window yelling, "Yay, Pastor Terry, you're my hero. I'm so happy to have you as my friend. I just think you're the greatest guy in the whole world." Pastor Terry's going to throw something out the window at me. I'm going to be an annoyance to him. Now, I'm saying all nice things. However, I'm saying them when he's trying to sleep. I mean, this kind of makes sense, doesn't it? He who blesses his friend with a loud voice rising early in the morning. Don't do it. It will be counted as a curse to him. Now, normally Terry would like me saying nice things about him, but not at 4:30 in the morning. So, I mean, this just makes sense. The next one is a men and women type verse. We have none of these ladies in our church. A continual dripping on a very rainy day, and a contentious woman are alike. Whoever restrains her restrains the wind, and grasps oil with his right hand. Now, Solomon is painting us a picture. And he threw a word in to make sure you get the picture. A continual dripping on a very rainy day. This isn't a little aggravation.
It's like Chinese do it.
This is big aggravation. All right. And a contentious woman are alike. So the scene is in the house with a bad roof, where a rainy day means dripping. A very rainy day means lots of dripping. That dripping shows there is a problem. It brings damage and causes annoyance. It is the same effect as having a contentious woman in the house. A man takes shelter under the roof of his home expecting to find protection from the storm. Instead, he finds a leaky roof, provides him no shelter. Likewise, if you are married to a contentious woman, it's not going to be good. It's going to be turmoil all the time. All right. Now, it says in verse 16, and whoever restrains her restrains the wind. To correct or reform a contentious woman can be a fool's error. Men, let me share something with you. You do not have the ability to change your wife. Stop trying. All you're going to do is make it worse. Pray about your wife. Be a godly husband. Go out of your way to repay evil with good. And let Jesus win her over with kindness. But stop trying to change your wife. No man ever born is going to change his wife. It just doesn't work. Enough said. Verse 17. As iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friend. Now, we use this verse all the time. We talk about it when we're studying the Bible and we're wrestling things out. But let's look at the verse. It says, as iron sharpens iron. A piece of iron can sharpen another piece of iron. Do we all agree with that? Okay. But let's talk about how it happens. It happens through striking, friction, and sparks. We think of the iron of a blacksmith's hammer working on a sword to make it sharp. As it says, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friend. Countenance, a better word would be personality. So a man sharpens the personality of his friend. A man can be used to sharpen, to improve and develop his friend. But it happens through a bit of friction and sparks. Now, we shouldn't be afraid of such and expect that true sharpening can happen without the occasional use of friction. The analogy infers that the friend persists and does not give up. Now, it's going to cause sparks when you try to sharpen your friend. Be prepared for it. Don't be surprised by it. Right, verse 18. Whoever keeps the fig tree will eat its fruit. So he who waits on his master will be honored. Now, it tells us other places in the Bible that the worker is worthy of his reward. If a man keeps a fig tree, it is appropriate for him to eat some of its fruit. It would be cruel and unfair to keep the fruit of a man's labor from him. Solomon used the fig tree because they abounded in Canaan and were more valued and regarded than other trees. Now he draws a comparison. So he who waits on his master will be honored. The appropriate fruit from properly serving as one master is to be honored. Think getting paid. Think getting a bonus. No, it's something in return for the service that was given. We should always do our work diligently and leave the promotion and the reward up to God. All right, verse 19. As in water, face reflects face, so a man's heart reveals the man. Again, Solomon is taking one of those things that everybody knows to be true. Smooth and clear water can give a wonderful reflection of a person's face. In a similar manner, a man's heart reveals the man's. The feelings and thoughts that come from our heart reveal us as the reflection of our face in smooth water. Who we are will eventually, be evident to others and will be shown by our words and actions. We can only pretend that we're really nice for so long and then people get to really know us. Folks, we all got flaws. We all got problems. Just be yourself and let it work out. All right, verse 20. Hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of man are never satisfied. Now we use this hell and destruction. They are pictures of the grave and the world beyond. They will continue to receive dying humanity and never become overfull. They are used here as figures of something that can never be satisfied. Now, this never being satisfied is just like the eyes of a man. Our longing to look upon things we desire will never be satisfied. We must control our desires and bring them under God's domain. A man will never see enough alluring images of women. Now, I love this. My commentator was really graphic. Man will never see enough alluring images of women or enough beautiful pieces of machinery. That's what guys look at. The answer is having the need channeled and satisfied in God and by what He provides. Folks, there is junk available to us every place we turn. That's not a reason for looking at it. We need to control what our eyes see. We are responsible for what our eyes look at. All right, verse 21. The refining pot is for silver and the furnace for gold. And a man is valued by what others say of him. So remember, to refine silver or to refine gold, I put it in a furnace, I heat it up, the impurities float to the top, and I scrape the impurities off, and I have pure silver or pure gold. It doesn't just happen, it happens in the refining pot. It says a man is valued by what others say of him. We often know a man's value more by what others say of him than what he thinks of himself. Now, there are three different interpretations to this proverb. First, that you may know what a man is by the way he bears praise. Second, that you may know what a man is by the things he praises. Third, that a man who treats praise as the fining pot treats silver and gold will purge all of that unworthy substance out. So don't get a puffed up opinion of yourself. Don't listen to the nice things people say about you. They're probably just trying to butter you up. All right, verse 22. Though you grind a fool in a mortar with a pestle, along with crushed grain, yet his foolishness will not depart from him. So again, it's a word picture. The way they used to make medicine, the way they used to grind up spices is you had this little container called a crucible. You took a little thing and you banged up and down on it till you ground it to a fine powder. That's what it's talking about. So just like that, we picture a fool being ground up. But grinding the fool up doesn't make his foolishness depart from him. Because one of the sad things about a fool is they will not learn. Now, I have a comment that came out of my commentary of studying this for our prison minister in the back of the room. Terry, you're going to love this. Prisons were made into penitentiaries through the mistaken notion that confinement would bring repentance and cause a cure. How well have we seen that work? No, it doesn't. Okay. Instead, many prisoners become hardened criminals. Only thing that turns people around is the grace of God. That's what changes things. Now, the last 5 verses of this are all lumped together. I'm going to read verses 23 through 27, and then I'll break them down a little bit for you. Here we go. Be diligent to know the state of your flocks, and attend to your herds. For riches are not forever, nor does a crown endure to all generations. When the hay is moved, and the tender grass shows itself, and the herbs of the mountain are gathered in, the lambs will provide your clothing, and the goats the price of a field. You shall have enough goat's milk for your food, for the food of your household, and the nourishment of your maidservants. Well, these are all kind of agricultural verses. Brother Graham is our resident homesteader.
That's right.
This is like homesteading 101.
Yeah.
All right. Be diligent to know the state of your flocks. Solomon wrote this with images from the world of agriculture. Flocks, herd, hay, grass, lamb, goats. But the principle applies in many areas of our life. We should work hard, that's being diligent, and we should know the state of whatever God has given us management over. If you don't know the condition of something, you can't effectively manage it or lead it. You know, if you got a farm, you need to know what's going on the farm. You don't just let it take its course, you manage it. Flocks and herds here are used to represent all the riches and possessions, because in Bible times, they were the chief part of man's riches. Now, where it says, attend to your herds, that word attend would be our word inquisitive. We should be inquisitive and concerned for their welfare. It should not be left up to servants or hired hands, but the landowner needs to supervise and oversee the business for himself. No matter who you hire, they're not going to be as concerned about the welfare of your stuff as you are. Jesus taught that. The hireling doesn't care for the sheep. He'll flee from the wolf. The shepherd, he's invested in the sheep. He's going to stay and fight the wolf. You can't expect somebody to fight your battles for you. We're going to fight them for ourselves. Verse 24, for riches are not forever. We should give ourselves to diligent leadership and management because the future is uncertain. If we take good care of what God has given us now, it may provide for us in the future. It says here, the lambs will provide for your clothing. If we don't take care of what we have, it won't be able to provide for us, and we will have an uncertain future. Now it says, goats will provide the price of a field. All right? So with the sale of the goats, you can pay the rent, buy the feed, and eventually purchase the land. Now, in Solomon's day, most farmers didn't own the land, they rented it. But if you were diligent and you saved your money, you could eventually get to where you could own the land. I thought the last thing was interesting. It says you'll have enough goat's milk, in verse 27. Now, it says specifically here goat's milk, because that was the most popular thing to drink in the Middle East. It is richer in protein and easier to digest than cow's milk. Therefore, there was a greater value placed upon it. And that concludes chapter 27. So for those of you who've been watching online, thank you for being with us today. When you can, come and join us in person. Here at lovely air-conditioned, Open Door Bible Church in West Ossipee. And if you would like to help us in the support of our missionaries, on our website page is a little donate tab, and we'd be glad to have you donate to help us support missionaries. Thank you, and God bless you. Have a great day.